Ladies and gentlemen, we live in an age where the boundary between entertainment and enchantment is no longer blurred. It has been utterly erased. What once was considered harmless music or innocent artistry has now become a vessel, a tool for spiritual influence, manipulation, and deception. Behind the polished voices, glittering stages, and alluring lyrics lies something far more sinister, an intentional alignment with ancient practices that our culture has been conditioned to dismiss as mere fantasy. Yet history and scripture remind us that sorcery, witchcraft, and the occult are not relics of a bygone era. They are very much alive, thriving, and cleverly disguised under the spotlight of pop culture. We are told in plain terms that the spiritual realm is real, that powers, principalities, and unseen forces are at work. And while the modern mind scoffs, the evidence is hiding in plain sight. Our celebrities, the very icons shaping the values and imaginations of generations, are not merely artists. Some of them have consciously embraced witchcraft, declaring it openly, weaving it into their art, their lyrics, and even their performances. Tonight, we are going to peel back the curtain and examine 6 singers you won't believe are actually witches. 1. The pop star who calls herself a modern-day witch. The idea of a modern-day witch may seem like something out of folklore or fantasy, but one pop star has gone beyond hinting or suggesting. She has declared it openly, without hesitation. She calls herself a witch, embraces the title proudly, and weaves it into the identity she shares with millions of fans worldwide. What's most striking is not simply that she uses the word witch, but that she practices what she preaches. She speaks of spells, rituals, and moon ceremonies not as metaphors or stage gimmicks, but as genuine elements of her lifestyle. To a culture increasingly fascinated with astrology, crystals, and spiritual self-discovery, this kind of confession doesn't spark alarm. Instead, it attracts curiosity and admiration. The danger is precisely in that normalization. What used to be recognized as dark arts has been rebranded as self-empowerment, personal healing, or harmless fun, yet the roots remain the same. This singer's influence is staggering. Her fan base extends across continents, her songs topping charts, and her image saturating social media. She has leveraged this platform not only to entertain, but also to guide her audience into her worldview. She references witchcraft openly in interviews, in fashion choices that echo pagan symbolism, and even in music videos where imagery of cauldrons, spells, and moonlit rituals play a prominent role. The curious thing is how often her work seems like an initiation. She doesn't merely perform, she invites, coaxing listeners into identifying with her practices, subtly suggesting that they too can tap into the same power. It becomes a kind of evangelism for the occult, wrapped in catchy hooks and captivating visuals. What is fascinating and troubling is how she bridges ancient practices with modern culture. Historically, witches were outcasts, feared and condemned because they represented rebellion against God and alignment with spiritual powers hostile to Him. But this singer rebrands witchcraft as chic, fashionable, and empowering. She speaks of casting spells the way others talk about journaling or meditation. The terminology of ritual becomes self-care, and the language of summoning becomes positivity. Yet peel away the new packaging, and the substance remains the same. An intentional engagement with spiritual forces outside the boundaries of God's protection. Her rise to prominence has also coincided with a cultural shift. Surveys show that fewer young people identify with organized religion, while more than ever before are experimenting with alternative spirituality, including witchcraft and paganism. This pop star becomes not just a reflection of that shift, but a driver of it. She normalizes what Scripture warns against, and because she is talented, beautiful, and charismatic, the warning lights that should go off in people's minds are dimmed by admiration. The line between entertainment and initiation blurs until it disappears entirely. Consider also how she frames her art. She has explained that her music is more than expression, it is spellwork. Lyrics become incantations, repeated over and over by millions who sing along without realizing the spiritual implications. Rhythm and melody become ritualistic, and entire concerts take on the structure of ceremonies. Lights, symbols, costumes, and choreography all conspire to replicate the feel of a mass rite. Where energy is raised, focus is given, and intention is released. Whether fans recognize it or not, they are participating in an act far more spiritual than entertainment. The singer herself has admitted as much, suggesting that her songs are designed to manifest realities, to bring about change in her life and in the lives of those who embrace them. That, by any definition, is sorcery. What makes this especially deceptive is how it is framed in the language of empowerment. She encourages her followers to find their inner witch, to claim control of their destiny, and to reject what she calls oppressive traditions. On the surface, this seems liberating, especially in a world where many feel powerless or disillusioned. But empowerment apart from God is simply a counterfeit. It may feel like strength, but it is bondage disguised as freedom. The singer's invitation is compelling, but it is a doorway into spiritual captivity. The story of this modern-day witch in pop culture is not just about one individual, but about a broader trend. It illustrates how the entertainment industry has become one of the most powerful platforms for spiritual influence. When millions idolize someone who openly identifies with witchcraft, the taboo is broken and the practice becomes aspirational. What was once hidden in secret circles is now broadcast on global stages. That is the true power of this revelation, not simply that one pop star has embraced the identity of a witch, but that countless fans are now following her lead, stepping willingly into the shadows she glamorizes. 2. The songstress who channels ancient goddesses on stage. There is a particular kind of performance that goes beyond mere art, beyond entertainment, into the realm of ritual. It is the kind of spectacle where the stage itself becomes an altar, and the singer is no longer simply a performer, but a vessel. One songstress has mastered this art in ways that leave little doubt about her intention. She does not hide her influences, nor does she cloak her imagery in subtlety. She openly channels the archetypes of ancient goddesses, drawing on mythology, paganism, and the occult to give her music a sense of power that transcends sound. To many, it is dazzling. To those with discernment, it is chilling. What we are witnessing is not creativity for its own sake, but the deliberate invocation of spiritual forces that have been worshipped for millennia under the guise of fertility, beauty, war, and wisdom. Her performances are meticulously designed to mirror ancient ceremonies. Costumes evoke the grandeur of temple priestesses, and choreography often echoes the rituals once performed in honor of deities long thought forgotten. She takes the stage as if stepping into a role far older than the modern world, embodying characters who are not mere artistic inventions, but spiritual identities. At times, she even declares that she is not performing at all, but channeling, allowing something else to flow through her. That claim alone should make us pause. It reveals that what millions are applauding as art may in fact be participation in something spiritual, whether they realize it or not. The goddess imagery she employs is not chosen at random. References to Isis, Aphrodite, Inanna, and other ancient figures appear again and again in her lyrics, visuals, and interviews. These goddesses were not benign symbols of empowerment, but the very deities worshipped by cultures steeped in idolatry, blood sacrifice, and spiritual rebellion against the living God. To bring their imagery back into the modern world, celebrated on global stages, is not just a stylistic choice. It is a revival of old spirits under new disguises. The same entities that once demanded worship in temples now receive it in arenas filled with flashing lights, roaring crowds, and songs that double as invocations. Even more revealing is the language this songstress uses when describing her creative process. She has admitted that she feels possessed at times while performing, that she becomes something larger than herself. This is not accidental. In ancient traditions, priestesses were considered living vessels, mediums through which deities spoke and acted. When this modern singer steps onto her stage and adopts that same posture, she is essentially reenacting those ancient practices, consciously or not. The fans, enamored by the spectacle, play the role of the congregation, celebrating the goddess channeled through their idol. The effect is magnified by the global reach of her art. Ancient rituals once confined to local temples now stream across the world in high definition, shared endlessly online, reaching millions who may never recognize the deeper significance. A teenager in their bedroom, watching a music video filled with goddess imagery, may think they are enjoying harmless art. Yet in reality, they are participating in the spread of an ancient spiritual system repackaged for modern consumption. That is the true brilliance of the deception. It feels beautiful, inspiring, even divine, and in a sense it is divine, but not from the Creator, Rather, it is sourced from the counterfeit divine, from powers that masquerade as light. What is most concerning is how openly these goddess archetypes are framed as empowerment for women. The narrative is that by embracing these ancient figures, women today can reclaim power, independence, and identity. But empowerment divorced from truth is simply bondage. These goddesses were never liberators. They were demanding spirits that kept entire civilizations enslaved. To reintroduce them in the name of liberation is to repeat history's darkest mistakes. Yet because it is cloaked in music and art, the danger slips by unnoticed. This songstress becomes not merely a singer, but a high priestess of culture, ushering in a revival of old worship dressed in modern glamour. Every performance is a sermon, every song an invocation, every fan unknowingly participating in rituals older than they could imagine. And while the world applauds, those with spiritual discernment recognize what is unfolding: a stage transformed into a temple, an artist transformed into a conduit, and entertainment transformed into worship of the very powers Scripture warns us against. 3. The rock icon who publicly practices ritual magic. There is something different about the energy of rock music. From its earliest days, it carried with it a reputation for rebellion, for pushing boundaries, and for stirring the soul in ways that felt bigger than the music itself. But among the countless figures who have risen in that world, there is one rock icon who has gone further than most, not only admitting to the use of ritual magic, but celebrating it as an integral part of his identity and his art. What was once whispered in rumor is now openly declared. He has stated in interviews, in lyrics, and even in his stage design that ritual magic is not a metaphor but a lived reality, something he practices deliberately, and something he believes empowers his career. The fascinating and unsettling part of his story is how unapologetic he is about it. Whereas some artists cloak their involvement in the occult under vague spiritual language, this figure speaks of magic directly. He references books, authors, and traditions that are unmistakably rooted in the occult. Aleister Crowley, the infamous British occultist, is one of his inspirations, and his stage shows often include symbols taken straight from magical texts. To him, rock music is not merely entertainment, it is ritual, a way of channeling and focusing energy. He has said plainly that when he steps on stage, he is conducting something spiritual, something designed to alter both himself and his audience. The power of ritual magic lies in its structure. Unlike casual superstition, it involves intentional symbols, words, and actions aimed at influencing unseen forces. This rock icon incorporates that very structure into his concerts. The use of sigils, inverted symbols, flames, and chants is no accident. They form the backbone of a ritual, with the crowd serving as participants. What millions cheer as spectacle is, to the trained eye, the reenactment of ceremonial magic. Each song becomes an incantation, each repeated chorus a chant, each carefully staged sequence a rite. The music is the medium, but the message is spiritual, and it carries with it consequences whether the audience recognizes it or not. His lyrics reinforce this worldview. They frequently allude to summoning, invoking, and transcending. References to darkness, spirits, and mystical power run throughout his work, not as passing metaphors, but as central themes. For him, rock music is both a declaration and a demonstration of magical power. By writing, performing, and recording with this intention, he turns his catalog into a library of spells set to rhythm and guitar riffs. Fans who belt out his lyrics unwittingly participate in his rituals, adding their voices and energy to the very forces he seeks to conjure. What makes this figure particularly influential is his authenticity. He is not pretending for shock value, nor is he merely dabbling. He has spent years studying the occult, openly acknowledging that ritual magic is the foundation of his worldview. This sincerity resonates with fans who see him as a prophet of rebellion, someone who offers not just music, but a spiritual alternative to traditional faith. In reality, what he offers is not freedom, but entanglement. By practicing and promoting ritual magic, he positions himself as both a participant and an evangelist, spreading occult principles to millions under the guise of art. The reach of his influence cannot be underestimated. He is not a fringe figure but a mainstream icon, celebrated, awarded, and imitated. His words carry weight, and his endorsement of ritual magic has sparked countless followers to explore the same path. Young fans, drawn first to the energy of his music, often find themselves drawn deeper into the occult because of his example. He normalizes what should be feared, glamorizes what should be resisted, and spiritualizes what should be recognized as rebellion against God. The sobering truth is that this rock icon embodies what rock and roll was always flirting with: the marriage of rebellion and ritual, the union of sound and spell. He stands as a visible reminder that music is not neutral, that it can be, and in his case, is, used as a tool for spiritual practice. His public embrace of ritual magic is not simply about personal belief. It is about broadcasting that belief on a massive scale, shaping the imaginations and spiritual trajectories of those who idolize him. And in this, he has succeeded. For many, he is more than a musician. He is a priest of another order, guiding countless souls deeper into the rituals he performs so boldly. 4. The indie voice who blends spells into her lyrics. Among the world of music, the indie scene often prides itself on authenticity, depth, and artistry that dares to defy the formulas of mainstream pop. Listeners are drawn to it because it feels raw, intimate, and personal, as though every lyric is written for the soul. Yet hidden within that vulnerability, there is another trend at work: the weaving of spells directly into the songs themselves. One indie voice has become particularly well known for this practice, not in whispers or accusations, but in her own words and in the construction of her art. She admits openly that her lyrics are spells, her melodies are rituals, and her songs are designed not only to be heard, but to be experienced as acts of magic. The stage becomes her circle, the microphone her wand, and every listener becomes an unknowing participant in her enchantments. This approach might seem strange at first. After all, music has always been a form of emotional influence. But in her case, the line between artistic metaphor and literal spellcraft is erased. She has described her songwriting process in interviews as akin to witchcraft, where every word carries intention and every note channels energy. She speaks of writing under the phases of the moon, aligning her creative sessions with astrological cycles, and deliberately crafting lyrics as incantations meant to manifest outcomes. These aren't simply love songs or explorations of heartbreak. They are conjurings designed to alter reality for herself and for her listeners. Her performances make this even clearer. The indie aesthetic, soft lighting, candles, earthy costumes, creates an atmosphere that feels sacred, almost like a ritual space. It is not uncommon for her shows to include ceremonial elements such as burning sage, invoking the four directions, or leading the crowd in chants that are indistinguishable from spells. Fans may see it as part of the vibe, something poetic and symbolic, yet it reflects a deeper commitment to spiritual practices that go back centuries. Her concerts do not just entertain, they initiate. The lyrics themselves reveal layers of this practice. She speaks of summoning love, binding energy, banishing negativity, and calling upon unseen forces for guidance. These are not just poetic images, but the very language of spellcraft. For centuries, witches have employed chants and rhymes to focus intention, and here, in the form of indie music, the same techniques are deployed to mass audiences. Listeners sing along, repeating the words like mantras, without realizing that repetition is one of the key elements of magical practice. The music becomes a vehicle for participation, pulling the audience into the spell whether they consciously agree or not. What makes this especially powerful is the intimacy of her style. Unlike pop stars who perform with bombast and spectacle, her delivery feels personal, almost confessional. This intimacy disarms the listener, making them more receptive to the message. Her voice carries vulnerability, but beneath that softness lies a deliberate current of spiritual influence. She is not just sharing feelings, she is planting seeds. Those who idolize her often take her words into their daily lives, quoting her lyrics as affirmations, writing them in journals, or using them as mantras during meditation. In doing so, they are participating in the very spells she composed, extending the reach of her magic far beyond the concert hall. The cultural impact is subtle but pervasive, because the indie world is often perceived as more authentic and truthful. Fans rarely question the deeper implications of these practices. They assume that the singer is simply expressing herself artistically. Yet what she is expressing is a worldview deeply rooted in witchcraft, rebranded as art. It is not rebellion in the loud, defiant sense of rock, but in the gentle, almost seductive form of whispered spirituality. That subtlety makes it even more dangerous, because it slips past defenses undetected. In many ways, this singer represents a shift in how witchcraft is being normalized. It is no longer only about dramatic occult imagery or shocking performances. It is about embedding spells into the very fabric of everyday culture through songs that are streamed, shared, and sung daily. What seems like music for the soul is, in fact, magic for the masses, and while her fans cherish her voice as healing and empowering, they may not realize that they are participating in rituals designed with far different intentions. What appears innocent is not neutral, and what feels like self-discovery may, in reality, be spiritual deception woven artfully into melody and rhyme. 5. The chart topper who credits her success to witchcraft. In the glittering world of mainstream pop, success is often attributed to talent, hard work, or simply being in the right place at the right time. Yet one chart-topping singer has made statements that peel back the curtain on a different kind of power at play. She has openly credited witchcraft, spells, and rituals as a source of her fame and influence. For her, it is not a side hobby or a private quirk. It is a central part of her story. She has admitted to casting spells for success, using talismans for protection, and performing rituals to ensure her career continues to soar. While the world celebrates her as a self-made star, she herself acknowledges that something far more mystical is at work behind the scenes. This admission should not be taken lightly. For centuries, witchcraft has been associated with summoning forces to manipulate outcomes, whether in relationships, wealth, or influence. To hear a global superstar confess that she leans on those practices to shape her career demonstrates just how far this normalization has gone. Her fans admire her confidence and boldness, often interpreting her connection to witchcraft as a metaphor for empowerment. Yet she insists it is more than metaphor, it is reality. She openly shares rituals tied to lunar cycles, speaks of invoking deities for inspiration, and attributes her creative bursts to forces she communes with during her ceremonies. Her music videos and stage productions reinforce this testimony. Audiences are not just watching a performance, they are witnessing a ritual broadcast on a global scale. The use of pentagrams, candles, altars, and esoteric symbolism are not accidental design choices. They are deliberate nods to the spiritual framework she openly embraces. These elements function as both aesthetic flourishes and actual magical tools, blending performance with occult practice. Millions sing along to her hits, never realizing that they are echoing chants and mantras intentionally written as invocations. What she claims as her method of success becomes a participatory act for her entire fan base. The narrative she spins is one of empowerment. She presents witchcraft as a way of seizing control of her destiny, breaking free from systems she views as oppressive, and manifesting the reality she desires. To fans, especially young women, this message is intoxicating. It suggests that they too can harness hidden forces to shape their lives. In interviews, she has described spell work as a tool for resilience and survival, casting it in the light of personal healing and independence. But beneath the language of empowerment lies a spiritual allegiance that carries consequences. What she is presenting as liberation is, in fact, a form of enslavement to forces that operate outside the authority of God. Her success story has ripple effects. By crediting witchcraft so openly, she provides cultural validation for practices that once carried stigma and secrecy. Fans imitate her rituals, share spellbooks online, and adopt her phrases as affirmations in their daily lives. Social media becomes an echo chamber where her influence multiplies, with entire communities of young followers embracing witchcraft because their idol endorses it. In this way, her fame functions not only as entertainment, but as evangelism for the occult, spreading its reach into homes and hearts around the globe. What is particularly dangerous is how seamless this integration feels. She does not appear dark, threatening, or sinister. Instead, she is glamorous, relatable, and inspiring. She speaks of self-love, creativity, and empowerment, values that sound wholesome on the surface. Yet all of it is rooted in practices Scripture warns us to avoid. The packaging is beautiful, but the substance is toxic. Fans see success and assume it is proof of effectiveness, without pausing to question the source. Ultimately, this chart-topping singer serves as a symbol of how witchcraft has been mainstreamed. No longer confined to the fringes of society, it now sits at the top of the charts, celebrated and imitated by millions. Her testimony is not hidden, it is broadcast proudly, even glamorized. And in that pride lies the danger. For when witchcraft ceases to shock and begins to inspire, a generation is not merely listening to music, they are being discipled into a spiritual system that promises power but delivers bondage. 6. The performer who turns concerts into occult ceremonies. There are concerts that feel like celebrations, concerts that feel like festivals, and then there are concerts that feel like something entirely different, ceremonies. For one particular performer, the line between showmanship and spirituality has long since been crossed. His performances are not just concerts, they are crafted with the precision of rituals, designed to immerse audiences not only in sound and spectacle, but in something profoundly spiritual. From the moment the lights dim and the first note strikes, the atmosphere is transformed into something resembling an occult gathering, complete with symbolism, structure, and intention that go far beyond the typical concert experience. This performer has been very open about his fascination with esoteric imagery and mystical themes. His stage designs are drenched in occult symbolism. Pentagrams, pyramids, inverted crosses, and all-seeing eyes appear as backdrops while flames, smoke, and choreographed chants create the aura of an initiation rite. To the average concertgoer, these might be dismissed as edgy aesthetic choices meant to shock or impress, but to those who recognize the language of the occult, the meaning is unmistakable. The concert is not simply entertainment, it is ritual theater, drawing the audience into an experience that mimics ancient ceremonies. The structure of his shows mirrors that of occult rites. They begin with an invocation, often with dark tones, ominous sounds, and imagery that sets the spiritual atmosphere. As the performance unfolds, there is a progression, songs arranged like stages of a ritual, moving from chaos to climax. By the time the finale arrives, the crowd is in a frenzy, their energy directed and harnessed by the performer in ways that echo the raising of power described in ritual magic. He positions himself not just as a musician, but as a high priest figure, channeling energy, guiding intention, and orchestrating a collective experience that feels sacred, though it is far from holy. The choreography, too, often carries ritualistic significance. Dancers form circles, enact symbolic gestures, and move in ways that evoke ceremonial magic. Fire and light are used deliberately to heighten the sense of transcendence, and the crowd is drawn into participation. They are not passive spectators, but active participants, chanting lyrics, raising their hands, and repeating phrases that function like invocations. To sing along at such a concert is to unwittingly join in the ritual, becoming part of the ceremony, whether one understands it or not. The performer himself has acknowledged this dynamic, at times referring to his shows as spiritual experiences or rituals of transformation. He does not deny the intentionality, instead he embraces it, presenting his concerts as more than music. They are designed to be moments of transcendence, where audiences leave feeling changed, as though they have touched something beyond themselves. To many fans, this is precisely why they return again and again. The concerts feel like worship services, except the object of worship is not God, but the spirit of rebellion, self-exaltation, and the occult imagery the performer glorifies. What makes this phenomenon so dangerous is how appealing it appears. The shows are grand, captivating, and unforgettable. They draw people in with awe and excitement, disguising their deeper spiritual significance beneath layers of artistry. The average fan may not even realize that they are participating in rituals. They only know that the concert feels powerful. But power without discernment is perilous, and what is being invoked in these ceremonies is not neutral. The ripple effects are enormous. Millions watch recordings of these concerts online, spreading the influence even further. Young fans imitate the gestures, memorize the chants, and decorate their own spaces with the same symbols, unaware of the spiritual realities they are aligning with. In this way, the performer's concerts become not just events, but cultural initiations, discipling entire generations into occult frameworks of thought and practice. This performer has managed to turn the modern concert into something resembling a global ritual. With every tour, he gathers thousands into arenas that serve as temples, stages that serve as altars, and songs that serve as incantations. What the world celebrates as art and entertainment is, at its core, a spiritual act, one that echoes the ceremonies of old, reimagined for the digital age. And while fans leave with memories of an extraordinary night, few realize they have taken part in something far deeper, a ritual dressed as a performance, an occult ceremony masquerading as entertainment.